Debt Avalanche versus Debt Snowball. Which one should you use? Everybody's always talked about the Debt Snowball being the best. A lot of people like the Debt Avalanche. What's the difference? What are the benefits? What are the advantages and disadvantages? Let's talk about it today on Triple F. All right, welcome back to Triple F Podcast. Hey, man, I got some questions for you.
Really? Okay, right at it.
You're a huge BYU fan, right?
That's right here.
Who's the big rivalry for BYU?
It's the university that is 40 miles to the north, University of Utah.
The Utes.
Yeah.
The Utes. So we have BYU and Utah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some of the other great rivalries in history, we have the Yankees and Red Sox.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a huge rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
We have the Lakers and Celtics, which used to be really big. We had Magic and Bird, going against each other.
Mm-hmm.
We have Ali, Frazier. We have UT and Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
We have Rocky and Apollo Creed.
Mm-hmm.
You may be familiar with that.
Yeah.
You got to be a little bit older. Some of the young kids don't know who Rocky even is.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Well, now, we in the world of finances, there's a new rivalry.
Okay.
It's called the Debt Snowball versus the Debt Avalanche.
Really? I didn't know that.
Those are two different methods of debt reduction.
Tell me more.
Have you ever heard of the Debt Snowball?
I have.
Where do you think that got its name from?
Dave Ramsey.
Dave Ramsey, yeah. He actually coined that probably 20-something years ago, I believe, the Debt Snowball when he started his company.
Yep.
And just recently, we've had a thing called the Debt Avalanche come along, and I hadn't heard about this probably until 6 months to a year ago, because I've kind of been
a new concept, right?
Yeah,
like a
new concept, a new method.
Approach.
And so one question I get a lot is, so what's better? Is the Debt Snowball better or the Debt Avalanche better?
Mm-hmm.
So there's two different methods of getting out of debt. And so we're going to talk about those today. We're going to talk about a little bit, what is the Debt Snowball and what is the Debt Avalanche? What are the advantages and disadvantages to the two approaches?
Mm-hmm. Is it kind of like one goes one way, one goes the other type of thing?
Yeah.
Approaches debt from a different angle.
So the Debt Snowball approaches it from the balance that you have on each account, and the Debt Avalanche looks more at the interest rate.
Gotcha.
And the math and the finances around it. So before you even get into it, the most important thing to remember with getting out of debt is you have to change your behavior, your mindset. It doesn't do any good to pay off debt if you're just kind of continuing to get it.
It's funny how it's related back to behavior.
It is. It's all and Dave Ramsey kind of made it famous too when he says 80% of getting out of debt is emotion, and 20% is actually the math. So, and he has, and his big approach is the Debt Snowball, and that's one I've always kind of liked also. But now this Debt Avalanche is one that most people, when they're getting out of debt, they tend to take more the Debt Avalanche approach and look more at interest rates. And so, but to do either one of them, you have to have a change of behavior. You have to have a lot of motivation, and you just have to be kind of fed up, and sick and tired of being sick and tired, I guess is how they say it. So, but you have to really just stop making kind of stupid and unnecessary purchases. You just need to put all that on hold. Get out of debt, and then you can address, using credit cards and what have you going forward. If you didn't have enough pain before, you want to go back into pain again. So, but whichever one you choose, just get after it. There's no excuses, no delays. It'll change your life. Okay. And so they both work.
Yeah.
It just depends on the person and the mindset. And I'll be interested to know, if you were in debt and you saw yourself in debt, which approach would you be looking to take, and let's talk about it first, and then let me know which approach you prefer.
Yeah.
But and so you got to stop using it. Use your debit card, cash, auto withdrawals for bills, that type of thing. So having said all of that, you've changed your mindset. You're sick and tired of being sick and tired. You're ready to change. What are the two methods? So the Debt Snowball method is what we call a quick wins method. And this is one I've always approached and kind of talked about with people. And so it requires a behavior modification, but you're just really focusing entirely on the amount of each debt. So you have, I've seen, 10 people with 10 credit cards before, all the way from $500 on one to $20,000 on the 10th one. And what we'll do is we'll just list all the debts from smallest to largest, pay the minimum on all of them except for the smallest one. And we pay as much as we possibly can on that smallest one. We knock it out, and then we take all the money we're paying on that smallest one, and we roll it to the next one, and the next one. And what you see there is you can go from 10 or 11 accounts down, you can knock out
Yep.
3 or 4 or 5 accounts pretty quickly because people have when people have a lot of debt balances, there's usually some of them that are really quick, like
Yep.
$500, 1,000,
Mhm.
800, 1,200, and so you can knock those out usually within a month or 2.
Mhm.
Whereas if you start at, with that $20,000 debt, it may take you years,
Mhm.
a couple of years to knock that thing out, and you still got 9 or 10 debts that are out there on the
Yep.
table. And so the debt snowball method is pay the first one off, snowball that payment into the next one and the next one, and you just knock them off from smallest to largest. The result of that, of course, you're paying more interest over time
Mhm.
because not all of those small debts are high interest accounts, and so you're still paying a lot of interest on the larger balances, and so you tend to pay more interest over time, but you make a lot of progress and
Yep.
you knock a lot of debts off and you have a lot of extra money to pay the next one and the next one. By the time you get to that, fourth or fifth or sixth balance, you're putting maybe putting $1,000 or 2,000 a month towards that. You
Mhm.
have a lot more money to put towards that. And so it tends to really be like a snowball and just the payment just kind of builds over
Mhm.
time. And by the time you get to that last debt, you're able to knock it out usually pretty quickly. I like that method. So
Yep.
and it's more for somebody that doesn't have that's not looking at this through a finance lens, but they're looking at it through an emotional lens
Yeah.
and through a quick wins. I want to just get rid of some stuff
Mhm.
and just feel less burdened. So it usually works best for people with a lot of credit accounts that just feel overwhelmed by the number of bills they
Yep.
get, the number of payments that are due.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of that snowball approach.
Mhm.
Then lately, over the last few years, they've come with this debt avalanche, and that's the math first approach.
Mhm.
And this is what a lot of people will immediately go to. And that's, you focus on you focus on efficiency, you ignore the balance, and you're focusing entirely on the interest rate. So you have some debts that are 4% or 6% or 12, and then you got some that are 25 and 30%. They'll pay those 25 or 30% loans first. And then they'll go from the most interest to the least amount of interest. And so what you do that you can actually pay it off faster. You
Yep.
just have to have a different mindset. You
Yep.
you have to have that mindset, and this works mostly for people I think with 2 or 3 or 4 debts.
Mhm.
But you have to have that mindset that I may not get any quick wins, but over time I'll probably pay it off a little bit quicker because I'll be paying less interest over
Mhm.
time.
Yep.
And there you're just listing your debts from highest interest to lowest, and you're just paying them off in order from
Mhm.
that. And again, you may have one of your biggest debts may be the highest interest rate you have, and it's going to take a lot longer to pay off. So you're not going to see progress as quickly, and so you need a lot more self motivation to
Mhm.
kind of tackle that debt avalanche
Yep.
math first method.
Mhm.
And
Oh, I'm
but you do,
excited to
yeah,
talk about this.
but you do end up paying a lot less interest. So if you were in debt and you
Mhm.
had 5 or 6
Yep.
debt accounts,
Mhm.
maybe you've had this in the past, and in earlier life or whatever.
Yep.
I mean, what kind of method would work for your mindset?
Well, so I think if you were to look at the emotional profile of people that have what you've described as the scenarios where if you've got a lot of accounts, you've got a lot of debt spread across cards and automobiles and homes and so forth, I think that emotional profile of that particular kind of person would automatically lend you to a debt snowball
Mhm.
approach, because the way I look at it is typically somebody with that emotional profile, they are emotionally driven, and so they're going to need that same kind of emotional reward in order for them to stick with it. Now when you look at the debt avalanche, what I typically see is people who are willing to go that route typically are not getting into a lot of consumer debt,
Mhm.
because they already are of the mindset and the emotional profile that the total amount of interest that I will pay over time is more important than getting rid of a lot of let's say
Of accounts.
of these accounts,
Mhm.
right? And so I just think that they're too emotional, that the profiles are just too different. Now, what I think is that as you're younger and less emotionally mature, then the debt snowball approach is probably going to be more effective. And then as you get older and you become more emotionally mature, more financially stable, you make better choices with your money, then the debt avalanche becomes more possible. And I think Dave Ramsey would also argue this point, is that the common everyday person that you see driving around the road, working their job, working for the weekends, paycheck to paycheck, the debt snowball approach is going to be the one that is going to work.
Yeah.
And that's how he's made his money is focusing on those people. Those other people who are out there, white collars, they're driving downtown in their BMWs. They understand money, they understand interest rates, they understand the total amount that they're paying over a long period of time. They will approach this differently,
Mhm.
and so I think it's just a different kind of profile. Not saying one is better than the other. I'm just saying it's one will likely work with one type of person more than the other. I think Dave Ramsey and the other advocates of the debt
Yeah.
snowball approach and the debt avalanche would
Yeah,
agree.
so if you have $500 you're gonna extra, you're gonna make a $500 payment on something, you can pay an account off, you just
Hmm.
feel really good
Yep,
about it. Whereas if you take a $500 and you just put on a $20,000 balance that has a high interest rate,
does nothing.
you do it month after month after month, and you look, you still got a ten or $15,000
Hmm.
debt. It may not be 20,000 anymore, but maybe it's 12 or 15,000 now. But you still have the same amount of bills. Yeah, it's just it can really emotionally grind on you a little bit. And
Hmm.
so you really have to step back emotionally, and take, and just take it all
Hmm.
in and just really, figure out what method you can work with
Hmm.
emotionally, and
Hmm.
just attack it.
Yeah,
The,
and I
the the main thing is attack it, one way
yeah
or the other, just keep grinding at it and grinding at it and
yeah.
grinding at it. And before long, you'll get stuff paid off, and you'll
Hmm.
be successful at it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think one thing that financial planners, people who deal with trying to help people get out of debt and such, one uphill battle that they have nowadays is that today is different than it was 50 years ago, right? Our mental state, our emotional state is much different. Today, we are much more give me satisfaction right now,
Mhm.
sort of just give it to me in an IV. I just want it constantly. And whether I get that dopamine hit from a social media post that I put up and I get a like from it, or someone else comments and says how great I am. We constantly are looking for that hit, that emotional sort of confirmation that we're good. This is different than it was years ago, where that emotional requirement or that dependency wasn't there in that
Yeah.
same way. And so I think what is difficult for financial planners, and I think this is one reason why home ownership, like mortgages, is kind of been put into its own category as, hey, it's okay for you to have debt in the sense of a mortgage, but all this other debt you should really get rid of as soon as possible. And you even see this transition of, it's not only is it okay for you to have mortgage debt, but it's also okay for you to have other kinds of debt as long as the interest rates are really low.
Yeah.
Then it's okay to have that as well. And so we're constantly qualifying more debt as being okay. Whereas 50, 75 years ago, all debt, including mortgages, would have been like, hey, no, you don't get into debt, get out of it as fast as possible. But with today's age, it's just not, it's not in our emotional makeup to be able to digest putting 500 extra dollars towards a mortgage that you're paying that's 600 grand.
It just takes forever.
It just takes too long. You wouldn't keep clients if you would keep pounding on them.
Yeah.
You got to put that $500 towards that mortgage.
So how do we solve it if you're torn between one thing I've found really works pretty well for me and for some clients I've had is it's called a hybrid method.
Hmm.
And so we list all of our debts, smallest to largest. And what you'll see is there's usually a lot of them that are, like I said, 800, 1,000, 1,500. Then you'll have some that are 15 or 20,000. And so I would have clients pay off some of those lowest hanging fruit first,
Hmm.
the $800 one, the 1,000, 12, feel really good about yourself. You see how this is going to work. You're going to be successful. But man, I'm still paying, 25%. And so then after we paid off those first few small balances and we got into the more of the three to $5,000 balances or the eight to
Hmm.
$10,000 balances,
Hmm.
then I would say, let's switch,
Shift.
and shift and go for that high interest rate, because this $10,000 credit card over here,
Yeah.
you're paying a ton of interest. We've cleaned off all the small stuff. Now let's take these larger balances and maybe 8,000 versus 10,000, and it's going to take a while to pay both of those off anyway.
Hmm.
Let's go ahead and skip the snowball, and let's change over to an avalanche now,
Hmm.
and let's go ahead and knock out the highest interest rate first, because now we're going to get more bang for our buck. So it's
Yep.
kind of a hybrid approach. So I don't think you have to go all snowball, all avalanche. I think what I found really works and it worked for me and for clients I've had, is that you start out with the snowball, and then you eventually turn to an avalanche once you have your confidence up,
Yeah.
your emotional,
Maturity.
maturity is there,
Hmm.
and you can now see that you can get out of debt, but it's going to take some time, effort, and just a lot of focus really a change of behavior.
Yeah, and I think one thing you can do as a coach, if you're at that point where someone is working with a coach, then it could be useful if the coach also is able to put on the screen and say, "Look, by next month you will have saved yourself this much
Yeah,
money," and then you basically use that savings number as the dopamine hit,
yeah.
right? Every month you knock this down, this is how much you're saving that you'll be able to put towards this, so you can keep that dopamine hit still
Yeah.
coming.
So as a setup and going along those lines, the first thing you would want to do to get out of debt is list all of your debts on a
Mhm.
sheet of paper, list all the interest rates, list the amount of principal and interest that you're paying on those bills. Just look at your last bill. It tells you how much is principal, how much is interest.
Mhm.
And once you see in all your minimum payments, once you see how much in minimum payments on those credit cards and debt accounts
Mhm.
you're paying, it may be $1,500 a month in minimum
Mhm.
payments, which is a huge surprise to a lot of people. They thought they
Yep.
were paying $300 or $400 because they really weren't looking at them in
Mhm.
totality.
Mhm.
And then you look at the amount of interest that you're paying, you may be paying $800 a month in interest. When you just see those numbers on paper and you've just shed a light on them for the first time ever,
Mhm.
probably you've never looked at them in totality, you've only looked at them individually, and you'd most people will just pay, an extra 50 on this one, an extra 25 on that one, and they really just don't ever make any progress.
Mhm.
But when you have a method to the madness, you actually list them, you actually see how much is going towards the minimum payments, how much is going towards interest. That's just a self motivator in itself to kind of get you started.
Mhm.
You knock out those small ones early, and then if you want, you switch over and start knocking out those high interest ones after you've got those first 3 or 4 small ones, and you've got the process going, and
Momentum.
you've really got you're really moving, towards your goal.
Mhm.
Then you switch over and start knocking out some of that high interest rate stuff. You'll do it a little bit faster. So,
Mhm.
so I kind of like the hybrid method, but I do like start out with the snowball method for most people
Yep.
because when people are in debt, they have a lot of credit accounts. They
Mhm.
really need some quick wins just to stay motivated, to stay in the
Yep. Create some momentum.
yeah, and just create momentum
Yep.
and just really carry it through. Whichever method you use,
Mhm.
just kinda you have to kinda get pissed off and attack your plan with vengeance, kind of
Yep.
in a gym lingo kinda way.
Yeah.
I'm just kinda pissed off today. I'm
Yeah.
gonna go push some weights around.
One thing I would add to that is like, because even when you're in the gym and you're moving a lot of weight, you do want some sort of sense of progress,
Yeah,
like you're making a progress, and that's kind of where we're saying like, what is the big roadblock? The big roadblock is that emotionally you don't feel like you're making much progress. So
right.
we're trying to lean into the emotional aspect here of the financial responsibilities that people are taking on, and how do you alleviate that pressure? One of the things you can do, I think was very helpful now that we didn't have 20 years ago or even 5 years ago, is the ability to be able to take bank statements, credit card statements, and leverage AI like a Chat GPT app. Basically, you just take screenshots or upload those files from your bank, upload them into Chat GPT, and have Chat GPT build a model for you that tells you what it is you're spending on interest.
Yeah,
Right. And then it can, if you don't have access to a David, you can get ChatGPT and you can all upload all those things into
yeah.
ChatGPT, and then you can ask it questions like, okay, can you build me a model that will show me what I'm spending on interest rates for all of my debt? And then once he gives you that number, then you can say, okay, I want to be able to track this over time, and I want to see how much money I'm saving in interest on my mortgage or on my car payment or whatever by pushing extra money into these accounts. Because sometimes just coming up with that number is a bit daunting,
Mhm.
right? Because you got a lot of calculations that are in there as far as how you amortize it over a long period of
Yeah,
time and
yeah.
so forth. So, but ChatGPT can do all that, and so it can spit out a number saying, "Hey, you put $500 into this account. This is how much it's going to save you in the long run," and you get this nice financial planner just right on your tablet or on your phone. So I think it's a useful tool that we now have we didn't have just a few years ago.
And I didn't think I'd ever be replaced by AI, but you may just made a case to replace me by AI. All
I
those
ju-
financial accounts are
I don't think it
replaceable
can.
with
Yeah,
AI.
yeah, maybe, but
But AI won't have the love. They won't have the love and support that I
no, no.
give. So
I think okay. Look, this is real. This is really a good point. I think it's a really good point. I'm glad you bring this up because it's related to fitness and finance for sure. Right? Look, all of you guys, you all can go figure this out on your own. Well, you have the tools. You can figure out how to train yourself. You can go get workouts. You don't have to do any thinking. You just go out there and YouTube and get on ChatGPT and you can figure all this out. Same thing on finance. You could go figure all this stuff out on your own. It's not like anybody that's doing this is any smarter than you. We're not that different as far as our intellect. The difference is that David is someone who's going to help motivate you and hold you accountable. That's the difference. He'll take care of what ChatGPT can do for you, no problem. But it's that regular touch point. It's saying, hey, I've got to go talk with David. Did I take care of all of my tasks that he asked me to do as far as attacking my debt before I get over there to go see him? Because he's going to ask me, right? Because it's
so David yells at you. ChatGPT won't yell.
No, ChatGPT is too nice, right? It'll tell you how good you're doing.
Be nice in this debt counseling stuff,
right? So you need that sort of authority to motivate you, because as a human, we just naturally are going to procrastinate, take the easiest route, and we're going to be looking for emotional dopamine hits. And so you help to keep our emotions in check. And that's where the coaching, motivation, accountability comes from. That's where you always will have a role, even with AI and so forth, being available to everybody.
So that's it. It was pretty quick today. We just, whatever method you use, just get after it. Get them paid off. Your life will change. And so with that, I mean, debt snowball, debt avalanche. I like a hybrid method. Start out with debt snowball, maybe eventually switch over and look at interest rates. But if you get after it, it really won't matter. The math, you won't pay a lot of interest if you pay everything off really fast, as you possibly can. So it really doesn't matter. And at the end of the day, it's just a few dollars. But however works for you, whatever your mindset is, leave us a comment. If you have a different method, or if you use one of these methods, just let us know. What method do you use? Is there something else you want to hear us talk about on debt and debt reduction? Debt is a huge problem. It's a huge problem from the government all the way down to every person in the country, just about. I don't know anybody that doesn't carry some debt load.
Yeah.
So it's a huge issue. It's accepted. It's a huge issue. It's something you really got to learn to deal with.
It is literally the ball and chain.
It is
in our lives.
It really is. And man, when you get out of debt, there's nothing freer than being out of debt. And so I really encourage you to try to get out of debt as quickly as possible. And just be a responsible adult, man, with money. That's the main.
Good luck with that.
Good luck with that. Who's responsible anymore, right? With that, we're going to sign off, and we will talk to you next time on Triple F.
See ya.